Hello dear friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to share with you a very mysterious and chilling truth, a tale that has haunted the fog-filled nights of London for centuries. It is a story whispered by carriage drivers, feared by night watchmen, and remembered by those who walked the empty cobblestone alleys after midnight. They called it the Phantom Black Dog of London streets. Before we begin, make sure you hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon, so you never miss any of these strange and fascinating stories from history and legend. Now, let us step back in time to the London of the 1800s. The city was alive with movement, yet at night, its streets belonged to shadows. Gas lamps flickered weakly, throwing pools of golden light into the mist. But beyond that glow was only darkness. Carriages rattled past, their wheels splashing through puddles, while the poor and weary hurried to find shelter from the cold. London was a city of great progress, but also a city of fear of crime, of sickness, and of things that could not be explained. It was in this world of mystery and superstition that the tale of the Black Dog took root. Some said it first appeared near Highgate Cemetery, where newly dug graves seemed to stir with restless energy. Others swore it roamed the narrow alleys of Whitechapel, where shadows were thickest and danger most common. Wherever it was seen, one detail remained the same: a huge hound, blacker than night, with eyes like burning coal, watching silently from the fog. The earliest known story comes from 1803. A night watchman named Thomas Briggs patrolled near the old St. Sepulchre's church. He claimed he heard heavy footsteps behind him, though when he turned, there was no man in sight, only a vast shadow that moved like an animal. Out of the mist stepped the dog, its eyes glowing, its body towering larger than any mastiff or wolfhound. Briggs later confessed that he dropped his lantern in fear and ran until his lungs burned. The next day, his friends laughed at his tale, but a week later, Briggs fell ill and never rose again. From then on, whispers spread that the Black Dog was no ordinary beast, but an omen of death. As years passed, more sightings were recorded. Carriage drivers swore the dog would appear suddenly in the road, forcing horses into a frenzy, only to vanish when the wheels drew close. Sailors arriving in the docklands told of a shadowed hound pacing them silently as they searched for inns. And in quiet taverns, rumors grew that even the most respectable men had seen the beast, and had their lives changed soon after. By the 1830s, the Black Dog had become more than a tale. It was a presence in London's very soul. Mothers warned their children not to linger after dark. Beggars refused to sleep in alleys known to be haunted. Even hardened criminals muttered prayers when they felt unseen eyes in the fog. One story tells of a young seamstress named Eliza who lived in Holborn. One evening, returning late from work, she felt the strange sensation of being followed. The air was damp and heavy, and the only sound was her own footsteps. Then, she noticed a shape moving just beyond the lamplight, low, silent, and steady. When she turned, two fiery eyes glared from the mist. Terrified, she ran the last street to her home. Neighbors said she reached her door pale and trembling, gasping that the dog had come for her. Within a fortnight, Eliza was dead of fever, her final words whispered deliriously, "It waits outside." The legend grew darker still when entire families reported seeing the creature. In 1841, a merchant family in Cheapside swore they had heard scratching at their door late at night. Thinking it a stray dog, the father opened it, but saw nothing. Hours later, the household was awakened by their youngest son screaming. He claimed he saw a huge black hound staring at him through the window. By morning, the child was feverish, and within days, he too was gone. The family never spoke of the Black Dog again, but their servants carried the tale across the city. The strange part of this legend was how it spread across every level of London society. It was not confined to the poor or the superstitious. Aristocrats whispered of it in their parlors, soldiers claimed to see it near their barracks, and priests muttered warnings in their sermons. The black dog was not just a story, it was a shadow woven into the fabric of London itself. Some tried to explain it. Skeptics argued it was only a large stray hound, magnified by fog and fear. Doctors claimed it was an invention of sick minds, hallucinations born of cholera and plague. But others believed it was something older, something tied to London's bloody past. Had not executions filled its streets? Had not fires consumed its homes? Had not plague carried away thousands in silence? Perhaps the dog was the spirit of vengeance, a beast born from centuries of death. By mid-century, one part of London was spoken of with special dread, the Blackfriars district. There, under the arches of the old bridge, and near the crumbling walls of forgotten chapels, the black dog was seen more than anywhere else. Some swore it would stand at crossroads, blocking the way until travelers turned back. Others whispered that it appeared before great tragedies. The dog seen one night, disaster the next, and so the black dog of London became a symbol of suspense, fear, and death. No matter how much the city grew, how many gas lamps were lit, or how many new buildings rose, the shadow of the dog never left the fog. Those who saw it rarely lived long, and those who heard its howl claimed it chilled their blood for the rest of their lives. The legend was no longer just a story. It was a curse that Londoners believed with every step in the dark, and the question that lingered, whispered in taverns and markets alike, was this: who would see the dog next? The legend of the black dog was no passing whisper. By the 1850s, its shadow had lengthened across the very heart of London. The city was changing. Railways thundered into stations, factories blurred smoke into the skies, and gaslight fought bravely against the endless fog. Yet for all the new inventions, the streets after midnight were still a place of fear, and it was in these hours, when honest men stayed inside, that the black dog was said to wander. One of the most chilling accounts came from a cab driver named Joseph Harker in 1857. Harker was a man of strong build, known for his stubborn nature and little patience for superstition. One December night, he was hired to carry a gentleman from Fleet Street to Hampstead. The fog was thick, the lamps dim. Halfway along his route, his horse stopped dead, refusing to move forward. Joseph cursed and struck the reins, but the horse only trembled violently. Then, from the mist ahead, he saw it. A vast black shape, crouched low in the street. Two eyes glowed like fire, and as Harker blinked in disbelief, the creature rose. Towering almost as tall as his horse, its gaze never left him. Harker would later tell his friends that in that moment, his chest grew cold, his breath shallow, as though the air itself had been drained of life. He snapped his whip, desperate to move, but his horse bolted sideways, nearly overturning the cab. When he looked back, the dog was gone. The next day, the gentleman he had driven that night was found dead in his study, struck down by a sudden seizure. To some, it was coincidence. To others, proof of the dog's dreadful omen. More stories followed. A dock worker in Wapping swore he saw the black dog pacing along the riverbank, vanishing each time the fog shifted. Weeks later, an accident on the docks claimed 3 lives. A serving maid in Kensington told of hearing scratching at her window, followed by a long, low growl. She fell sick within days and never recovered. Even soldiers stationed at the Tower of London muttered of seeing a hound prowling the moat, though no earthly animal could have entered. The black dog had become more than a curiosity, it was now a harbinger. People said it appeared before disasters, as though warning the city of blood yet to come. And London in those years knew no shortage of suffering. Cholera returned again and again, sweeping through the crowded slums. The great stink of 1858 choked the air, making the Thames a river of death. Fires consumed warehouses and homes, and always, in the shadows of such tragedies, someone claimed to have seen the black dog first. One particularly notorious tale was told during the cholera outbreak of 1866. In the crowded East End, death carts rolled daily through narrow alleys. It was said that in Whitechapel, a group of night watchmen saw the hound at the corner of Dorset Street, its head low, its red eyes unblinking. Within days, dozens in that very block fell ill, their bodies carried away by the cart. Rumors spread that the dog walked before death, choosing its ground before the plague struck. By now, newspapers began to print letters from frightened readers. Some dismissed the accounts as superstition. Others swore they were real. An anonymous column in the Times in 1867 warned, "Beware the beast that walks the streets unseen, save for eyes of burning coal. It follows misfortune as shadow follows man." The story reached such fame that even scholars debated it. Clergymen called it a demon, a servant of darkness sent to test the faithful. Folklorists linked it to ancient English myths of spectral hounds said to guard graveyards and crossroads. Some whispered that London itself, with its centuries of fire, plague, executions, and misery, had birthed the black dog as its own curse. And yet, the tales continued, each darker than the last. In 1872, a young barrister named Edward Wainwright left his chambers late at night. His colleagues later recounted that he spoke often of working long hours, sometimes walking home through Lincoln's Inn Fields after midnight. One night, he never returned. His body was found near the gates, his face frozen in terror. The only clue came from a night constable, who said he had seen a black hound near the same gates, standing silent and still as the fog swirled. When he approached, it vanished into thin air. Fear spread again during the Great Fire at Tooley Street in 1861, when flames consumed warehouses near London Bridge. Survivors swore they saw a massive dog running through the smoke, yet it never burned. As firefighters battled the inferno, men muttered that the dog was there not to perish, but to watch, a witness to death and destruction, as it always had been. By the end of the century, the black dog had become a story carried in every pub and parlour. To the poor, it was proof that death walked among them, as real as hunger and disease. To the rich, it was a superstition, yet one they repeated in hushed tones when carriages rolled past graveyards at night. And to the wary constables walking their beats, it was a shadow best not spoken of, for too many of their number had claimed to see it before misfortune followed. Even as Jack the Ripper stalked Whitechapel in 1888, some whispered that the dog was seen before his killings, pacing in the fog as though leading victims to their doom. Whether true or rumour, the name of the black dog was never far from the lips of those who lived in fear of the night. London had grown brighter with new lamps, louder with new engines, but the streets after midnight were still haunted. And always, behind the fog, there was the whisper, "Beware the black dog, it waits." As London stepped into the new century, with electric lamps replacing gaslight and motorcars replacing carriages, many believed the city had left its old ghosts behind. The fog still lingered, but science and progress now filled the air. Yet even in this age of invention, the whispers of the black dog refused to die. In 1904, a policeman patrolling near Highgate Cemetery reported an encounter that shook him to his core. He described walking past the iron gates when his lantern flickered and went out, though there was no wind. In the silence that followed, he heard claws scratching against stone. From the shadows stepped a vast black hound, its eyes glowing red, its breath visible though the air was warm. The officer raised his truncheon, but the beast did not move. Instead, it stared at him for what felt like an eternity, before vanishing like smoke. The officer staggered home and resigned his post within the week, never to speak of it again. During the First World War, the black dog returned in new whispers. Families of soldiers claimed to see it pacing outside their homes, hours or days before news arrived that their sons had been killed abroad. In Poplar, a widow swore that the dog stood at her gate the night before the telegram came, its eyes fixed upon her door. Neighbors avoided her street for weeks, saying the hound's presence still lingered. The legend stretched even into the Second World War, when the Blitz cast fire and ruin upon the city. In the rubble of bombed-out streets, survivors claimed to see the black dog moving silently among the ruins. Some believed it was there to guide the souls of the dead. Others thought it merely fed on tragedy, drawn once again to death, as it always had been. But not all who saw it perished. A story from 1941 tells of a fire warden who spotted the dog during a bombing raid. He swore it walked beside him through the smoke, leading him to a group of trapped civilians hidden beneath rubble. To him, the black dog was no demon, but a savior. Yet even then, he admitted its eyes glowed with a fire not of this world. As the decades passed, London grew brighter, busier, and louder. Skyscrapers rose, streets filled with cars and buses, neon signs pierced the dark. Still, the old city remained. Narrow alleys, forgotten churches, abandoned courtyards where shadows never lifted. And in those places, the stories continued. Taxi drivers late at night, walking home after shifts, sometimes whispered of a huge hound keeping pace with their footsteps. Night workers swore they heard low growls in the mist, though no dog was near. A handful of reports even reached newspapers in the 1960s and 70s, describing a phantom dog with glowing eyes seen near graveyards or old bomb sites. Some tried to explain it as folklore, a modern echo of ancient tales. Others suggested it was mass imagination, born of fear and the endless fog. Yet for every skeptic, there was someone who swore their encounter was real. The most chilling part of the legend was never just the sight of the black dog. It was what came after. Too many of those who spoke of it were struck by misfortune, illness, or death. Too many coincidences piled up until even rational men avoided certain streets at night. Even now, in the 21st century, the black dog remains part of London's shadowed soul. Tourists walking near old graveyards sometimes report strange shapes in the mist. Locals passing down family stories still speak of ancestors who saw the dog before tragedy struck. And in pubs across the city, the name of the phantom black dog is still whispered with unease. Is it a spirit of vengeance, born from centuries of blood and suffering? Is it an omen of death, walking always a few steps ahead of misfortune? Or is it something else entirely, a guardian that only appears when fate is about to turn? No one truly knows. What is certain is this London is a city of history, and its shadows are deep. And somewhere, beyond the lamplight, perhaps still walks the black dog, silent, watchful, waiting. So, if ever you find yourself alone on London's streets at midnight, and you hear footsteps behind you with no one there, or you glimpse two glowing eyes staring through the fog, remember the legend. For those who see the phantom black dog are never quite the same again.